All right, we're interrupting that report as Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we're given to understand, is in fact leaving from Maldives. We can expect to see the Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister, at the Malé airport. This, of course, is the Malé airport, and he's been in Maldives since yesterday afternoon. Remember, he also addressed the Maldivian Parliament. There were several memorandums of understanding that have also been signed between India and Maldives, and this is assertion and projection of power by India in the Indian Ocean region. Although Maldives is a small island nation with a population of just about 430,000 people, its strategic location is what makes the nation extremely significant. India enjoys historical, cultural and ethnic linkages with Mali, and this of course is a relationship that is also now being strengthened by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is also his first visit abroad, and interestingly he chose the small island nation of Mali for his first visit abroad in his second term as the Prime Minister of India. This is a part of his diplomatic push, keeping the neighbourhood first policy as the guiding principle in terms of how India carries forth with its diplomacy. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be landing in Sri Lanka in Colombo roughly by about 11:30 in the morning, and he'll also be meeting with the Sri Lankan Prime Minister and the President there, and that also is a significant visit. It is also being described as a solidarity visit, as this is of course going to be the first visit to the Sri Lankan nation by an international leader post the serial bombings that had taken place on the 21st of April. Now, the Indian Prime Minister has made it abundantly clear that he is not going to cede any turf. Remember, over the last decade, rather the last 2 decades, there had been a lot of speculation about how China had been encircling India by what had been described as the string of pearls, where China had been building bases in various different points in a bid to try and surround India. And this, of course, is what is being attempted to, in some ways, to be overcome, where India has decided to strengthen its relationship with Maldives. And this is, of course, a very significant visit by the Indian Prime Minister, reiterating the strong ties that India has with the island nation. And I'm also told that we are joined in by my colleague Siddhant Sibil, who's tracking the developments very closely for us. So, Siddhant, we can expect the Prime Minister to, in fact, depart from Malé on to Colombo in just a few minutes from now. Give us a sense as to what has been accomplished by the Prime Minister's visit to the Maldives.
Well, he will be shortly departing for Colombo. It was an important visit, important symbolic visit, and of course the first visit of the Indian Prime Minister in his second term. So clearly carries a lot of weight when it comes to what India gained, what Maldives gained. It's basically strengthening of ties. And if you look at his speeches, whether it's at the press statements or whether it's during the address to the Maldivian Parliament, focus was that India will be standing by Maldives as a partner, as a friend, as a neighbor. And of course, focus was also on 3 key issues, which were basically terror, climate change, and Indo-Pacific. We all were expecting terror and climate change to be raised by the Indian Prime Minister during the visit, but Indo-Pacific is something that will be closely noticed by China at least, because remember, this was a country which was just 9 months ago was under the leadership of a government which was very pro-China under former President Mr. Yamin. And now we have a new president, and in the parliament, the Indian Prime Minister raising Indo-Pacific sends a message that this is a concept not only here to stay, but India will be playing a major role in making sure that it gains currency. We know the ASEAN countries are now working on a white paper when it comes to Indo-Pacific. Washington already has changed the name of its naval base. Largely, this is a concept which is promoted by Japan, Australia, India, and US. And what is the main issue is for China. China views the entire concept very suspiciously, and it believes that it's being encircled using this concept. Most of the countries in Asia have started to use the concept. They've started to use this word Indo-Pacific in their diplomatic discourse as well, barring one country, that is China, because it still sees the world in its own terms, which is Asia-Pacific. So there's a difference between Asia-Pacific and Indo-Pacific. When we say Asia-Pacific, it's a Sino-centric world with China at the center of Asia. But when we use the word Indo-Pacific, it's India at the center of Indo-Pacific.
Absolutely, indeed. That is a significant distinction that has been brought about in recent years, and we also expect the Prime Minister to, in fact, depart from the airport at Malé in Maldives. And also, Siddhant, one of the important issues that's in fact been achieved in this visit by the Indian Prime Minister, this also happens to be a state visit by an Indian Prime Minister in the last 8 years that's come about, where India has made it abundantly clear that it is not willing to cede turf to Russia, to China, which had, of course, been trying to expand its influence through this very complicated process of debt diplomacy. And India has now stepped in and it has made it clear that the Indian Ocean is a territory that India, of course, sees as part of something that it would like to have, not let any other world power to let carry on with their influence. And this, of course, was the message that has been sent out by this visit.
Well, largely now India has started to interpret its neighborhood through its boundaries with the Indian Ocean. That enlarges India's worldview, because earlier it was geographical neighborhood, whether it's with Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar. But now it has expanded. That means that even countries in Africa are now India's neighborhood, and that is why we have seen India's keen engagement with the African countries. But by and large, talking about the Indian Ocean, we have seen the Indian leadership in last few years, especially under the first tenure of the Modi government, and now again focus has been to have good ties with these Indian Ocean countries, whether it's Maldives, with Sri Lanka, with Mauritius or Seychelles. We have seen India has been working on defense architecture, which is a part of security architecture of the Indian Ocean, with its plan of a base which has been talked about a lot during last year's visit of Seychelles leadership to India. And of course, Maldives, yesterday we saw two important projects being inaugurated by the Indian Prime Minister and the Maldives President. One, of course, we saw that a surveillance radar. It will have 10 autonomous units which will be feeding all the information to a centralized unit. And then, of course, a composite training center for the Maldives National Defense Forces that will be training Maldives Defense Forces when it comes to their training, their equipping the entire system, which shows that New Delhi is not only keen to engage with these countries but also engage on defense matters. This, when we have seen how China has been making inroads in the entire region, in the Indian Ocean region, which is worrisome for New Delhi, because New Delhi sees Indian Ocean as its own backyard. In the past, India never had to defend that part of the world because there was not much interest. But with increased global commerce and with Asia becoming the center of global geopolitics, globalization coming and impacting the lives of every person here in Asia, we have seen these crucial trade routes passing through Indian Ocean, especially near the countries such as Seychelles, Mauritius, Maldives, becoming very crucial and important. So whosoever controls these trade routes now will be controlling Asia and, of course, the world.
Absolutely, indeed, Siddhant. Do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, we just have got Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who stepped out and is now stepping onto the tarmac of the airport. He is expected to depart to Colombo in just a bit. He'll be landing in Colombo, we expect, roughly at about 11:30 a.m. And he'll be holding meetings with both the President and the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. This, of course, will be the first visit of a foreign leader to Sri Lanka post the serial bombings that had taken place on Easter Sunday, the 21st of April. Now, this, remember, has been a significant visit by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his very first visit abroad after having taken charge on the 30th of May in his second straight term. And this is Prime Minister Narendra Modi hitting the ground running as he has taken charge as the Prime Minister of the nation, and also putting diplomacy and his foreign policy as the core of his second term as well.